Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Sonali. I'm going to be your host. Please note that we can't hear you as you're on mute, so if you have any questions during the presentation, please use the chat window. We'll address any questions during an open Q&A session at the very end. And with that, let's begin with an introduction of today's speaker. Tim, would you like to start?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. My name's Tim Book. I'm a technical sales manager here at GSX. I've been here for about 8 or 9 years, I think, at this point, and mostly work with a lot of our trials and configurations, also for our current customers as well, helping with different services and setup and just making sure everybody's happy.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So I'm Olivier Renaud, Microsoft specialist and technical sales at GSX as well. I've been here for around 9 years too. I used to be a developer for one of our team in now technical sales. So welcome everyone, and thanks for being here.
Awesome, thanks Olivier. So a little bit about our agenda today, what we're going to cover. We talk a little bit about GSX here in the company. We introduce ourselves, but we'll talk about the company itself. Office 365 administration, changes and challenges. What has changed inside the portal, some new challenges that might be associated with them, and what administrators have to account for. We'll do some examples with some demos, which will be great, some real-world use cases, which is always a good thing to see. Just recap everything here. We'll go over the GSX portfolio, both for what we'll be talking about today with enterprise management, as well as some other offerings that there are. And then, like Sonali mentioned, we'll finish up with a Q&A session at the end. So if you have any of those questions, please make sure to get those into the WebEx chat for us. So a little bit about GSX Solutions here. We were founded in 1996, headquartered out of Switzerland, in lovely Geneva. We have offices in the U.S., in the UK, France, Switzerland, Singapore, and Bangalore, as you can see. 40 different countries that we operate in with 600 customers, so a very large cross-section of people throughout the globe to be able to offer support and services, as well as a large selection of customers that we work with, everything from financial institutions to healthcare institutions, small, medium, large companies, really goes across the entire spectrum there. So. And I think on the next slide here, we'll actually see a little bit of an example of all the different references that we have here. So, like I mentioned, different verticals here: financial, insurance, and you can see a lot of the large and medium companies that we also work with too.
Yeah, thanks, Tim, for the introduction of GSX. So now for everybody, we wanted to introduce a little bit to today's topic and explain a little bit the context. Sorry. So what we want to talk about today is administration in Office 365, and more specifically how Helpdesk can be empowered to really be able to take those actions in terms of Office 365 administration when it comes to the different users and what you need to change. So a little bit to explain. So as I'm guessing most of you are on Office 365 or probably migrating or planning to migrate. For those of you who have already tried it, at least you've noticed there's a new portal. So the Office 365 portal, you have to use it to make a lot of the changes there. So it's a new interface that you need to log on to on top of what you used to have. And for those of one that went in there, you cannot do everything from that portal. There are still many actions that require you to use PowerShell. So it's fine. It's now a skill that most admins need to have, at least messaging admins, collaboration admins, but not necessarily that you have within Helpdesk. So that's one of the first issue that we start seeing, and something that can block a little bit that.
Yeah, and Olivier, if I could just mention here real quick too, like Olivier mentioned, not all of your staff has the need to perform all those tasks, and if they do, they don't necessarily have those skills in PowerShell or other advanced features that might be required. And oftentimes the portal is changing too. If you're ever writing any custom apps that might go into it, or even just administrating it from a day-to-day perspective, Microsoft can change things on the fly. So being up to date with those, making sure you account for all those changes, and going in and fixing those items, you know, if you have any custom applications or scripts that you're using, can take a lot of time, and it can kind of throw you off guard here. So that's always one thing to watch out on. That's something that GSX here is really good at.
Yeah, thanks, Tim, for that. And so also what we've noticed and discussed with the different clients is the portal is not really designed for large enterprises or really for help desk. There are a few roles you can control, like password admin, user management, but there are a few things, there are a few limitations that we've found. So making bulk actions is a little bit hard. You can select like 40 users at a time or something like that, but otherwise, most of the time, you'll need to have some custom scripts that you write. So it's hard to select a large number of users. You can create those custom views to select some of those attributes if you want like all the users with a specific department or things like that. But it's not really designed for that at the moment. So if you've tried that already, you must understand what we mean here. The other thing we've noticed is depending on what changes you need to make, you need to log into multiple portals. So some actions like licenses you need to do in the Office 365 portal. If you want to change any of the mailbox attributes, you're going to need to do that in the Exchange admin portal if you have access to it, and so on. And there are some changes that need to be done in AD directly. So there are a lot of places that you need to do that, and it's very limited in terms of role-based access. As I mentioned, you can do password admin, user management. There's not a lot of flexibility there. So we hear very often companies have either delegating way too many rights to a help desk, which can be a risk, as we will conclude on that slide, and otherwise you end up with a lot of different PowerShell scripts in order to do those changes and to allow any user to make those changes, which is not always very easy. You need to troubleshoot. You need some level of expertise on those PowerShell scripts, and you need to maintain them as the platform evolves.
Yeah, and actually, Olivier, recently I came across one of our customers here that we were talking with from the previous monitoring experience. They were looking at the enterprise management tool, and the way they were functioning was they basically had to give their help desk access to everything in the world. Weren't any controls in place, you know, scripts lying around that people could run and things of that nature, not separating admin accounts. So they had let's say a major incident that somebody may have heard of through the tech community that let them down for a little bit for their messaging environment. So always important to be able to control that information and that access.
No, yes, definitely, and because otherwise that's what part of the impacts and risk that we see is well, then your security might be impacted if you start to provide too many permissions because you don't have the level of granularity that you should have. Security starts to be a risk. Otherwise, you're going to dramatically increase the cost of the administration because most of the requests, if Helpdesk is not able to perform them, then they're going to escalate to level 2, level 3 admins or directly to messaging admin team. And they don't need to be making all of those changes all the time just because they have those permissions. It's better to use that time to focus on the service delivery and on all those features rather than on those level 1 user requests. And so the other area that might be at risk is, well, incidents. As Tim just mentioned, we have some customer example where in order to have Helpdesk be able to perform all the different actions, they have way too level of admin access, and yeah, sometimes they're going to change things that are going to have an impact, so you want to prevent this. So now that we have explained more the context of the administration, we want to go through real use case examples with Tim here that will allow us to show you what's the solution that we propose to really empower the Helpdesk team and the other admin teams to make all the daily changes in the operations.
Thanks, Olivier. So probably one of the most common or core aspects of the tool, in my opinion, I would say, is empowering the help desk and being able to let help desk staff answer these requests, service these calls, get them done in a first call resolution, and taking away that administrative burden from your administration team, from your messaging team, senior admins to be able to do other more, let's say, value add or productive work here. So some common use cases. that we've encountered out in the wild that we've talked about here internally. Some users calling the help desk to be able to change calendar permissions. Team needs access to SharePoint with a new E3 license that they just gotten. Obviously, forgotten passwords is a very, very common scenario here. Maybe having to set a forwarding on somebody that had to go out on long-term leave, for example. That's a common one that's actually come up here. So we need to be able to empower and enable the help desk to be able to answer these simple requests here. Having a tool in place that allows you to delegate this access, to be able to do that in a nice, concise interface without having to open up PowerShell, without having to have those kinds of skills in one centralized UI to set all these settings is really, really powerful. We found a lot of our customers, really, really excited about being able to do that and free up that time for other tasks, more value-add tasks that we like to say here. So taking care of those daily requests that come in that just become, think about how many forgotten password resets might be happening, or how many times somebody needs access to a certain mailbox, or delegating calendar permission, as it says. So being able to call in and get that done on a first call resolution is a very key feature here. So with that, I'll let Olivier show you a little example of some of the scenarios that we came up with.
Yeah, thanks, Tim, for that use case. So indeed, so Helpdesk needs to react fast when you have all those requests coming in. Let me show you a little bit how we can do that in our tool. So the enterprise management tool from us, GSX, is completely web-based. So it's a SaaS solution. It can be a multi-tenant. So here I'm on a web specific tenant here, GSX Solutions. What you see here is what we call our user panel, where you can really perform all the actions on the different users, even if they are synced with on-premise AD, like 90% of the companies out there. So here you can access all of your different users. I can actually see that those users are synchronized with through Azure AD Connect. And any of those users, I can double click on it, and I'm able to see all of that information for that specific user. So coming directly from AD or Azure AD, an Exchange. So here you can edit directly the different fields. I can have some information coming from AD. I can see login email address and as email address. And I can really change the different attributes in here. So look at the different distribution groups, security groups that the user is part of. I can look at the different service plans and control individually each of the products that they have access to. So here, user has an E1 but not access to Teams. You can change all the calendar permissions. So that's something that you typically need to do in PowerShell or through the Outlook client. Here you can take action directly on that. You can control the different delegations and level of access or forward to. And you can also change any of the what we call Exchange priorities, so like the address book policies, controlling active sync, OAuth for mobile devices, the mobile device policy as well, or look at the different mobile devices and wipe them. So all those actions are possible. You can quickly do them if you need to, as Tim outlined for the different use cases. Of course, you can also reset the password immediately. And you can also control the different groups, so distribution groups in particular. Here you can see all of them. You can even create new ones directly from here and manage the different membership directly from the tool. And as you can see, it's very, very user-friendly and easy to use, so that you can provide access to your help desk. And as we'll see later, all those actions are possible, but you can really control which one are possible to be performed from the tool. So really easy to use tool directly here, and all the daily operations that you need to perform from a help desk standpoint, you can perform them as soon as you need directly in here. Okay, so as we've seen here and through the different use cases, thanks to that solution, you don't really need experts anymore to be able to perform those different actions based on the different end user calls. So you can delegate confidently all the different tasks, and especially the non-value added tasks, with confidence to the first level of support that would get the different calls. And all of this is done through a single interface that any of the teams can use and you can control what specific rights, what permissions they're going to be able to have in the tool, so that only the actions that you want them to perform will be available to them.
Okay, thanks, Olivier. Our next topic here that we're talking about here is the bulk changes on user accounts that we call. Being able to take mass change and actions on a group of users here. Now, the 365 management portal will allow you to do this, but it's also good for managing smaller groups of users too. So don't think that it's just about talking thousands and thousands of users. If you have a smaller company, maybe this kind of process and this kind of functionality would definitely benefit you, we think. But it's being able to manage actions for each user, but also many scenarios involve bulk user changes, like I mentioned. So a new product is rolled out. Recently, MS Teams was enabled. I think it's on E3 and above for everybody. So if you had an existing E3, Teams was enabled on your tenant, but you had to go back and add that to every single person that wanted access to it, either to test it or to actually implement it like we did here at GSX. You decide to roll out SharePoint, for example, for a bunch of users. During migrations as well, assigning new licenses to the people that are created in your tenant coming from your on-prem environment. We work with a lot of schools and educational institutions that need to be able to make changes on batches of students, graduates and undergraduates, or people in certain colleges and departments. So how do you manage those changes? How are you able to perform them currently? Well, you got to log into the tenant, log into the admin portal, and actions are user by user here. If you've ever tried to make a mass change inside of there, you've got to create a filtered list, or you got to do a search. I think the default UI has 40 results that return on each page, and you have to make changes per page in blocks of 40, basically. Or you've got to go back to your old trusty PowerShell. Now, again, we talk about the same thing before, where you've got to have those skills, be able to maintain those scripts, et cetera, et cetera. So giving that access to your help desk and to other personnel, again, to free up that time, that expertise to be able to do other things. So using one UI inside of here without having to hop into PowerShell, hop into the Exchange Management Console, we're able to do that without having to go through a lot of different portals and a lot of different clicks here. So that's what we have for the bulk user changes. It's called SuperClick, and I'll allow Olivier to demonstrate that right now.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So as you can see here, I'm still in the same portal, same location. So basically, well, first to show you the search. So here's really easy. You don't need to create any kind of custom filter or custom view. You can easily search by pretty much anything. So if I want to search by display name, you see, boom, it's instant. It comes up directly. I can search by distribution group, by service plan, by department. As we'll see later, we have also other properties and tags, we'll call OUs, that you can search for. So it's really easy to focus on the users that you need to perform a bulk change on. You can also, of course, select everyone quite easily. So let me clear here this filter and remove the search. And here, if I want to select all of my users, so in this case, I have 20,000 users, but we've tested this on more than 100,000 users. That works perfectly well. And here you can perform what we call SuperClick, which is basically a batch of actions, so making those bulk changes. And here you can see all the users that are going to be part of this bulk change. You can control any of the fields that we've seen before. So here I'm going to add those users to a few distribution groups. I can change specific properties. So I'm going to assign to them a specific address book policy. I'm going to enable active sync. So all of the changes that we've seen, you can control from here, assign specific licenses. So maybe I want to assign E1s with no teams. Maybe I want to change the different login email address, to have the one with the normal domain for the VPNs, and so on. So all those actions are going to be listed here. You can click apply, and everything is going to be performed on those users. And again, even if they are synchronized with on-premise AD, that will work too, and we'll explain a bit later how. Okay, so really allowing you to take those different changes, whatever the volume, if it's for a team of 5 users, an entire department, a region, or for the entire company, in a couple of clicks, you can easily make mass changes to all of those different accounts with no PowerShell needed, nothing, just here changing the different properties that you need to. So yeah, so as we've seen in those different use cases, you can really take actions on the large volume of actions, which means you don't need to spend time building that script, testing that, or doing user per user for taking action at the team or department level. There's no PowerShell scripting that you're going to need because everything is directly in the tool. That will allow you to really deploy, perform mass changes in seconds, literally, whenever you need to, based on helpdesk goals, based on company policies, on changes, you decide to roll out a new product, or there's a new license available, as Tim mentioned. All those can be easily solved through our portal.
Yeah, and we have, load tested that out to tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of actions. So like I had mentioned earlier, all the way up to that scale, down to if we need to change a couple of departments every once in a while, anything that we can save you clicks on and help to unify the process to be able to make it consistent across everybody doing it really reduces your risk here. So our next part is automating processes. We've talked about making changes to mass users. We've talked about empowering your help desk, allowing them to be able to make these changes without having to have full access to your tenant. But what about actually automating processes without having to have any interaction at all? The portal's never really been optimized for kind of user management in that fashion. No automation possible kind of makes it difficult for admins to be able to do that and make things consistent, like I had mentioned. So think about the onboarding process or offboarding or terminations, let's say, when an employee leaves the company. There's manual steps that are involved to be able to terminate the account, to make sure that there's no access involved, anybody else that has access to the mailbox that needs it. So there's always error that's introduced when you have a manual process. In the IT world, in the administrator world, we always say script, automate as much as possible. Reduces error, saves time, reduces complexity, decreases risk. So with GSX Enterprise Management, we're able to automate some of these processes using our what we call our OU structure to be able to apply a certain set of principles or a certain set of settings to groups of users based upon any different kind of combination that you would configure inside the tool. So again, I'll turn it to Olivier. He'll be able to show you that process.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Tim. So indeed, we'll go back to the portal. Now you start to know how it looks. So in order to automate those different actions, we've brought in that concept of OUs. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the AD-OU structure. So we tried to use the same concept, and you'll actually be able very soon to synchronize that directly with your on-prem AD-OU structure. And the concept of OUs allows many things, but it allows to perform automated actions based on the OU that the user is assigned to. So here you can see I have a pretty common OU structure based on regions, based on departments. And if I click on one of those OUs, I can see I have a set of users assigned to that OU. And what happens actually is that each OU has a set of rules. So here, whenever I add a user to that OU automatically, because most likely the users that are part of the same OU will have probably the same license, most likely they'll share membership of similar distribution groups. I'm probably going to apply the same policy for active sync, for address book. They're going to share everything that they share in common. There's no reason for you to perform those manual steps every time that you onboard a new user or that a user changes a department or a region. So all those actions can be automated through our concept of OUs, and it's actually leveraging our SuperClick engine in the background so that even if you had many users at once in one of the OUs, it will be able to do those bulk changes directly. So it really helps, as Tim mentioned, the onboarding and offboarding process, because each of those OUs, they can have different sets of rules, as you can see here, different sets of users. You can inherit as well the different actions. So here, if I edit this OU, you can see it inherited some permissions from the hierarchy, so from the parents' OUs, and you can, again, perform any of those actions as needed here with the level of granularity that you want to configure for those different users. And same concept, when you remove a user from an OU, is going to basically the onboarding is going to automate and remove all of those different rules that have been applied because that user was part of that as well. So it really makes it easy to streamline a lot of the processes and automate all of those manual steps that you probably repeat every time for the same users of the same team. And also this concept of OU can be used throughout the tool, as we'll see in the next use case. But just before I mentioned the search, you can also use those OUs inside of the search if you want to make a series of actions just on all the users of a particular OU. So really allow you to streamline those different processes, trying to automate what you perform on a regular basis based on what the user is part of, what team, what departments. So our goal here is to let you focus on what matters and not spend time repeating the same steps over and over again. This also allows to reduce the risk because it's automated. The same thing will always be applied, no risk to have a different sets of permission for that new user that came to the same team, same department, and well, basically allowing you to get more done because you don't need to spend time on those manual steps.
Excellent, thanks Olivier. And now our last use case that we're going to talk about here today kind of ties in everything that we were talking about earlier. So full role-based access control, RBAC controls. We've talked about empowering the help desk, automating processes, doing bulk user changes. And we briefly touched about giving access to that information, but how do we actually implement that inside of 365 Enterprise Management? There is a need to be able to granularly control this access as we've spoken about. We obviously are trying to shy away from giving the help desk full level access to your tenants to be able to do their job, but we're also trying to give them that access to be able to get the higher level admins to be able to do their jobs and do more value add work like we talked about. We also have a scenario with one of our current customers that would like to be able to have these autonomous regional admins. They have offices at different locations throughout the world that kind of do their own thing as far as the tenant is concerned. They're all inside of the one tenant, but somebody in the Boston area needs to be able to access and manage those users and only those users. Somebody in the Nice area needs to be able to do their users, Geneva, et cetera, et cetera. And then also, you know, a team lead scenario as well. Somebody needs to be able to access their people to assign licenses, access to mailboxes for managers or for secretaries, whatever it might be. So what is our solution to be able to do that? Well, having full RBAC inside of the tool to be able to granularly assign those permissions. Again, we don't want to have help desk people being able to you know, do their job by being able to assign a calendar permission or update a license, which in turn gives them access to create brand new users or mess with somebody, let's say, inside of the German region where there's much stricter controls on privacy and access to data. So we want to be able to granularly assign that information, but also to be able to track this as well. Who's making changes? What did they do? When did they do that? Trying to trace back an incident where something might have gone wrong, like I mentioned earlier, where somebody had kind of messed things up inside their environment because they had too much access. Being able to audit this and provide this for compliance reasons or an audit, like I had mentioned. So we have very, very in-depth RBAC controls that you can use inside of the 365 tenant, and I'll turn it over to Olivier one more time to be able to show this information.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. And I think I've seen a few questions in the chat related to that as well. So basically, let me go to the settings. You'll understand a bit better, but you can definitely have as many admins as you wish to, and they can all have different access. So here, I'm not logged in with a full admin, so I see partial roles. But basically, as you can see here, I can create a new login for somebody that should be able to access the administration. I can choose a few sets of roles. And here I can select every tab that this user is going to be able to see and each of the actions that I would like this user to have access to. So for example, on the Users tab, maybe you can let some users have access to that, but they should not make any bold changes. Maybe you want them to only have access to the user info and only do a reset password. So So that's something you can really control with granularity. And the other thing that this will let you do, and that's the case of that regional admin that you mentioned, the use case, and also I think we've had a question on that. You can select the scope for those permissions, those actions. So I can say, okay, this admin is going to be only able to administrate all the users that are part of the US OU. And I can show you an example right away, but you can see here that's really powerful in terms of controlling what permission, what actions, and the scope of those permissions, on what sets of user should that admin have access to. So I have a good use case right now. I can log out from that account that was actually having access to all the users. Here I have just a password admin account I created for this demo. And when I log in, you can see it's the same interface. Everything you're familiar with is the same, but you can only see the users tab. I can only see 38 users, although you'd seen before there were 20,000 users in this tenant. And I'm allowed to access the different users and reset password. But that's the only thing I can do because whoever created this account has limits the number of actions that were possible. And I'm going to log back in with that other user. And because the other thing you want to know is you want to know what happened, who made what change when. And this is possible. We keep track of every transaction that has happened in terms of who made the change, when, and what it was. So here you can see that password admin I just logged in with yesterday made a change, made a synchronization here, made the password reset on a specific user. And if you click, you can get more info. And this goes back to about a year, and you can search for events, for logins. You can go through the different history to have access to all that history. So really important to keep track of the different changes to understand what has happened and allow you to do some change management and understand what has happened there. So really, as you've seen, a powerful role-based access that allows you to limit the permissions that you assign so that every admin, every help desk member has the level of permission that it should have in order to limit the risk on the security issues. Allows them to empower each of those admins that have access to perform those operations, those daily operations that they need to take, and to take them immediately as soon as the help desk calls come in, as a request comes in for new permissions, you can take action. And there's no more need for those custom PowerShell scripts to handle all of that because you have it in here in that portal. So just to recap, so there's a lot of use cases we can go through, a lot of different features in the tool. We wanted to focus on those different use cases that we've heard many times, and we know that tool helps you to solve those issues. So just to recap a little bit what we've seen in terms of the features and benefits. As we've explained at the beginning, you need to have a single interface, easy to use, with no custom scripts that you build that you need to maintain, and that you need expertise to be able to use as well. You need to have that level of delegation, controlling who has access to what in terms of actions, in terms of users. So having a really powerful RBAC system that you can leverage. Bulk action. Making changes on the sets of users, whether it's 2 users, a team, a department, or the entire company, having access to the SuperClick engine that will let you perform those mass changes is critical. So that whenever that comes up in daily operations, you can do those changes, or whenever there are changes in the company in terms of licenses, policies, you can apply those changes massively. Smart automation, so automating your processes, and smart because they're based on specific OUs. They don't apply to everyone. They're based on very specific parameters. Supporting hybrid. 99% of you are probably still using on-premise Active Directory, and that's not going to go anytime soon. So you need something that not only is able to make changes in your tenants in Office 365, Exchange Online, or Azure AD. You need something that ties into your Active Directory on premises so that the changes that needs to be done there are being made there. And last, you need Well, you need to keep track of everything that happens. We probably have a lot of different admin teams, different levels. You need to understand what has happened. Whenever there's a change, an issue, an incident that happened, you need to be able to go back in time and see who made what change when to understand the impact. So here we really bring the solution to you to empower mainly the helpdesk team to be able to make all the administration, all the actions in Office 365 that they need to do as soon as user calls, tickets come into the helpdesk and request actions. And you don't want them to escalate every single ticket to the messaging team because they have global admin rights, they have Exchange admin rights. No, you want them to be able to take those actions immediately. You need to be able to manage large number of users, prevent the manual errors, and all of this would really help you maximize your return on investment in Office 365 because it has solved a lot of the headaches for the administration, but it brought some new ones through the interface. So this portal will really help you to solve those problems.
Great. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about the process here and how somebody would be able to test everything out. We do have a free 14-day trial for 365 Enterprise Management. It's a very, very easy process to be able to sign up. Literally, you're going to plug in some credentials, click on OK, and everything's going to be good to go. We have a lot of pre-made reports inside of here that you can walk through. You do have some custom reports that's available and custom actions that you can take to be able to create. Different OU structures and all the different features that we talked about. We do also offer a free walkthrough with our technical team. So it's not myself or Olivier, somebody else on the team will be able to help set everything up, get everything created, and get you on your way. You also have immediate results. So being that it's a fully functioning trial, you're not limited in features, you're not just looking at some theoretical data, you're actually being able to see what's going on inside your tenant, take some actions on there, get used to the tool, kind of set up a structure inside of there, and be able to actually look at the full power of the tool itself. So the trial process is very simple to sign up for. We also have a white paper on Office 365 management that's available on our website. We will include a link inside of the summary and at the end of the presentation to be able to download that, as well as a link to the trial process too. If you're curious about taking a look at it, we'll have information at the bottom, but support.gsx.com or gsx.com actually on the home page will direct you to all the information that you need. So a little bit more about GSX Solutions here. For the team itself, we have a follow the sun support model. We have offices all throughout the world, like I mentioned earlier, headquarters in Geneva, development offices in the south of France. We have offices here in the US and throughout Europe and the APAC region as well. 600 customers, 40 customers, varied sampling of customer types and industries that we work with here, and we do have a large number of references that are available on the website as well if you wanted to look at some of our recommendations that we have from current customers, from industry experts, peer-reviewed papers that we have, lots of different resources that our marketing team can send along as well too. 20 years in monitoring and reporting. We started off as messaging, branched off into different collaboration suites, into the management area now, on-premise as well as online, as you're already aware of. Hybrid monitoring, excuse me, I apologize everybody. And then we do have some end user and infrastructure performance-focused tools that we're going to talk about a little bit as well. Then also our Skill Center, too, our people that are here inside of GSX. So besides the tool, we do have access to a wealth of information and knowledge from different industry experts here. We do have a Microsoft MVP and Ranger on staff here, and our new Vice President, Gary Steer. We do have myself and Olivier, as well as the rest of the team throughout the world that have different varying levels of experience in industry and messaging and collaboration and customer service and help desk. You know, so a lot of different environments and backgrounds that we come from here to be able to help you with your projects, help you with you know, basically making sure everything is up and running and configured the way that you would want it inside your environment. And then a little bit more about the GSX Complete offering. So today we focused on GSX 365 Enterprise Management, User and License Administration. Those are the main features and the main product that we talked about. We do have a complete offering for your Office 365 tenant and managing that tenant. We have our flagship product, GSX Monitor and Gizmo, and user monitor experience monitoring. So being able to see what the experience, what the service being delivered to the user is from different locations inside your environment. You'd actually be able to deploy robot users in your network to say, what does the performance look like to my tenant from Boston and from LA and from Shanghai, all my different locations, and what are the users actually experiencing? Microsoft can say everything's working, 100% uptime, no service bulletins for your tenant, but what does it actually look like to somebody sitting there trying to access that information? We have 365 usage reports, some advanced usage reporting, consumption and usage inside of the tenant itself, top mail receivers, migration statuses and the status of people on-prem versus online during a migration, license information, who's consuming E3s versus E5s, reclaiming those unused licenses, who has access to certain information all throughout the 365 suite, Exchange, SharePoint Online, and Skype for Business Online. We have the 365 security audit module, so being able to simplify security events and audit information inside of your tenant. So people that are accessing information they're not supposed to be able to access, unusual login patterns, hacking attempts, things of that nature. And then 365 insights, SharePoint and Yammer social analytics, top influencers and access to Yammer and SharePoint, hot topics of the day, broadcast and reach capabilities, what messages are actually being read by your users, which ones are having the most impact when you do a blog announcement versus a chat announcement versus an email, whatever it might be. So again, a complete 365 management suite going from reporting to management to monitoring and analytics. Okay. So now, with that, we'll turn it back over to Sonali here, and I think there's been some questions that have been coming into the chat.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, it's now time for Q&A. I'm going to try to do 5 minutes. There's so many questions that we got, so we're just going to go straight into them, all right? Okay, first one. Are you able to set the number of licenses a certain OU can assign?
So very good question. So yes, that's a use case that we've discussed many times. We're currently working on it, so it's not available as of right now, but it is on our roadmap and it's defined. So well, don't hesitate to reach out and we can have more in-depth discussion about that, about your need. But that's a use case that we've identified.
Okay. How do you guarantee your tools are following latest updates? As you indicated that Microsoft is constantly evolving their portals and backends.
Indeed, very good question. So, well, first they tend to change the UI a lot, but everything is now usually based on APIs and different commands. So, but we do ensure that we're always up to date. So, as Tim mentioned, we're part of the Microsoft app. We're always using all the previews. So we always have the version before you can have access to it, and we always make sure that it works in time and so that we roll out new updates. We constantly roll out new updates to ensure that it's still compatible and to add new features based on customer feedback, on new features, on what Microsoft brings inside of Office 365.
Yeah, and the big thing with that is you don't have to do that. We're doing that work for you. So like Olivier said, we work directly with them. We have early access to things. You don't have to fix it when it breaks. Hopefully we take care of things ahead of time, but if something slips through, Microsoft does something without our knowledge, we work very closely with our development team and Microsoft to get things resolved.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. What kind of logging do you do, and how can senior IT harvest this? For example, if Bob admin resets Mr. Smith's password on date and time.
So if I understand well the question, I believe that's about tracking the different changes. So that was basically what we showed last about all the transactions. Everything is logged. You can control who has access to this log. So if Bob admin reset Mr. Smith's password, well, whatever senior IT can review what has been done through the transaction logs. I hope that answers the question.
Okay. Yeah, we'll contact you and revisit that if that didn't answer the question. Next, in your automation, can we have automatic group membership adds and deletes run, say, daily based on some rules?
So right now, as we mentioned, all the automated rules are triggered based on OU membership. We're going to be able to replicate those OUs from AD real soon. So if we mean automatically assigning a user to a specific OU, we have some discussion to do that based on parameters like departments, things like that. It's not available right now, but again, if you have specific needs, I saw also a question to tie into specific HR processes. So all of that, I encourage you to contact us and we can have a more in-depth discussion on your needs to really understand and see how we can help you to streamline those processes with external data like that.
Okay, we have a few more on enterprise management, and then we have a monitoring question too. Do you have native APIs that work with the current HR systems to add or move, delete users?
Yeah, so that's what I mentioned too. So we don't have APIs right now to tie into other systems. So that's something I think would be beneficial to discuss in a specific session together to understand a bit your needs. But yes, we would want to revisit that. We don't have APIs right now to tie into other systems.
Okay. Can you automate calendar access based on a start date and remove that access based on a remove date?
So if I understand well, that would mean change like automating the calendar permission and limit it in time. If that's the case, not really. You can automate calendar permission based on OU membership, but you can't limit it in time. So again, I guess that would be a good thing to understand more in depth that need in a specific discussion.
Okay, thanks, Olivier. We have one last question on GSX Monitor. Can you do Dubai performance tests or through to Jakarta or any location?
Very good question, very specific. But yes, so it's a little bit outside of the scope of today's webinar, but I invite you to contact us on the monitoring or to look at the online content. But yes, that's exactly what we focus on in terms of monitoring. We have specific what we call robot user you can deploy to understand performance from very specific locations. So different from what we've seen today, but yes, the answer is yes, we can do it. So again, don't hesitate to contact us, and we can have a more in-depth demo on that.
Okay, thanks so much. So we still have a few more questions. We're going to answer them via email if we didn't get a chance to answer them right now. So thank you, everybody, for attending today's webinar. An evaluation is going to show up in your browser, so please take a moment to provide us with your feedback. Thanks again, and have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.